So if you're watching this video, you're most likely aware of indie horror games like Poppy Playtime and Garden of Bonbon. I've made a video discussing why I think at least Garden of Bonbon specifically is contributing to what is in my opinion the current problem with modern indie horror. That game and Poppy Playtime are all games that basically make mascot horror a complete joke by purposefully making character designs aimed at children to take advantage of them, adding merch that is linked via the main menu of the respective games, which proves that these games are literally made for money and nothing else, and just generally not giving a shit anywhere else like the fetch quest gameplay. When that video came out, I got a decent amount of comments from people coming to Bonbon's defense saying that the game was obviously a satire on the current state of indie horror, and that it's just a parody and blah blah blah. However, I want to point out that is in fact not the case. The developers of Garden of Bonbon, the Euphoric brothers, made a whole video detailing how they created Garden of Bonbon, and you'll know that it was created to be an actual horror game. However, while the sad truth is that that's not the case whatsoever, I do like the idea of a parody or satire on the current state of indie horror games. And believe it or not, there is one! On January 22nd, 2023, one of the lead developers of Bending the Ink Machine and Dark Revival, the Meatly, released exactly that. The game being titled Meatly's Storage World. As the main menu suggests, this is just a generic mascot horror game where in this, you're being chased around by the Meatly himself. Now, this game is just the icing on the damn cake when it comes to making fun of games of its caliber. The first and most obvious one being on the main menu itself. There is a merch button on the main menu. The button for it is literally bigger than the start and quit buttons. However, if you click on it, you get a honk. Obviously a rip on how games like Bonbon advertise their merch directly on their games menus and have ridiculously overpriced merch, so they can profit off of their soulless project. That's already a good start, but it gets even better once you actually play the game. This game, just like Bonbon and Poppy Playtime, has a gameplay gimmick. Keying to the grab pack and the drone, this game's got a control for storage doors which you can open during the game. Another obvious nod. The environments and visuals are also intentionally generic and bland and boring, which is similar to the environments in the games I've already mentioned. Throughout the whole storage world itself, there are blue pages that can be found that you can read, which is clearly making fun of how these games execute telling their lore. That also goes for the donut missing pages and the blood that is actually ketchup on the floor, which, you know, continues to make fun of the lore execution via pointing out how they desperately try to replicate the classic ambiguity and mysterious execution the classic FNAF games had with its lore, which was successful. And the donut pages and the bloody writing on the floor also serves as a mockery to the piss-poor attempts these games make at scaring the player, unless the player is like 6 years old or a clickbaity YouTuber. And then we get to the overall gameplay, which you guessed it, fetch quests. However, it's so damn funny how it's handled since clearly it's meant to be seen as just parody. You're basically just getting a code in Donut and finding a second exit. That's just beautiful. Also, you're being chased around by the Meatly himself, obviously serving as the typical stalking mascot character like Huggy Wuggy or Mommy Longlegs or the Opula Bird, but his chase or walking or movement animations are so fucking cartoony, and his jump scare is so intentionally shit that I just burst out laughing. With all of this obvious satire and parody and mockery material present, I noticed a little bit that this game actually tries. Strange enough, you're given a flashlight and you actually have to conserve your flashlight battery, and it can run out. And without it, your vision gets really dark, so you have a little bit of resource management in this game, for which, you know what? For a parody game and for its worth, that's pretty cool. Makes me wish Poppy Playtime or Bonbon had any of that. And then we get to the ending of this game, which is a cliffhanger similar to Garden of Bonbon, and even Bending the Ink Machine Chapter 1, which is just even more pure genius. And then, the final nod. The final nail in the coffin to making modern indie horror. Icing on the damn cake. I'm glad Meatly Storage exists. Why? Because it shows how easy it is to make a fucking game like Garden of Bonbon, especially since, according to the Meatly himself in the game, this game was made in less than a day. And if that's the case, it just further exposes how truly broken the current state of indie horror is to such a mass audience, and that Meatly Storage World is a perfect satire on modern indie horror. Also, while hashtag bird up is pretty cool, here's another hashtag. Hashtag donut up.